Okay, what's going on?
Yeah, so things are a bit fine right now. I have been doing things consistently these days, especially with respect to going to gym,
I'm
like body related things.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Going to gym,
Oh, going
going
to
to
the
gym.
gym. Good, good, good. How's that work? Is it getting to where you look forward to it?
Yes, yes, and
Excellent.
like I have lost around 12 pounds, 12 to 13 pounds.
Gorgeous. Excellent. See? Now, this is the thing about bad habits and good habits are the same. Once you get used to them, you don't want to let go of them, right? And so, there are people who are, actually they run too much, right? Or they lift weights too much, but they really, really enjoy it. And so that's the trick, but moderation, right? But 12 pounds, that's very significant. Wow, good. You look good.
But thank you.
Keep going.
And yeah, but I do still need to say that I don't really enjoy it. It's like a normal chore kind of thing for me, and
Okay, well, what are you doing in the gym?
I just go for like 15 to 20 minutes of cardio and then do weightlifting. So
Have you ever been to like a female, I think it's called Roomba class?
yeah, but that's a bit too high intense. I tried it once.
It's too intense because you're not up there yet. But so you need to make that, let's say, a goal. You need to be able to at least do the cardio that every woman does to keep in shape so she looks nice, right? So that's a goal to work to you get to the place where you could take a beginner Roomba class or some other thing that just so you're in the beginning phases, but like meditation and many other things, if you do them properly, right, which is key, they'll become habits and refuges for you, a place where you can go, and there'll always be peace, and there'll always be a deeper understanding, and so on and so forth, and you can relax your body and relax your mind. So the gym is not different than that. It's a good habit, right? And you're going to need to do it anyway, right? No, you can't. These bodies require it, and we're treating them like little animals in a cage. And so we got to have that. And so maybe you could set that as your next threshold to be able to be cardio sufficient to be able to make it through the first half hour of a beginning Roomba, or I don't know anything about Pilates, but is that aerobic Pilates? You don't know either. Okay, well, you get the picture, right? Okay, next.
Yeah.
What else is
Uh,
going on? So
but
that's your body. Good,
uh,
good. So you're taking care of your body.
yeah, and I have been taking care of my mind as well. Like I have
Excellent.
been studying and doing a bit of challenging things. Like I have been reading this book by Robert Greene called Mastery, and I've been reading it mostly to remind myself that even the geniuses have worked hard, and it's like they didn't get it because they
There's,
had a
I
lot of
mean,
talent.
genius outside of some very, very strange and peculiar exceptions, like in a very, very narrow area. It doesn't exist. I've studied with 5 Nobel laureates directly, and not a one of them believed in genius. Not one. Not even Clary believed in genius, right? Thomas Clary, the guy who translated some of the books. And so I don't know anybody of that ilk, of that level of accomplishment, who even believes in that construct. Because for obvious reasons, right? You're going to have, maybe you do have genius ability in one area. I know people who can tell me phone numbers from 50 years ago. Are they a genius? No, they just have a very hypertrophied or overdeveloped memory compared to the rest of us. Maybe it's not overdeveloped. Maybe all of us have that potential. Okay, so just get rid of that word genius. It's not useful. It's not helpful, except occasionally for making a point or something like that. And it can look like genius, but there's always hard work. Always. I know so many brilliant people who can't even hold a job. I mean, I know brilliant people who live in trailers because they can't hold a job because they're not reliable. And so we can return to that question of genius and what goes into it. I think it's really important, but you should know that it's not a very good construct. Because you could be a genius in one area and your brain is retarded, it doesn't grow at the same speed in another, right?
Yeah.
So get rid of that, and also get rid of the so good. Good. So you're taking care of your mind.
Yes, yes, but
So who is this Robert
there
Greene
are,
character? Who is this Robert Greene character?
I think he wrote a few of those 48 Laws of Power, the Mastery book, and few books that are like pretty like popular, and like it's bit Machiavellian in nature as well. Some of the
Uh-huh.
books, they don't care about morality and all,
But let
but
me tell you something else about genius. Just, I mean, let's use that word because uh, geniuses don't contrive. You know, people of achievement, they don't have like shortcuts. They don't. They're not lazy, right? They work, and you don't have to be. This is why genius doesn't matter, right? And it's a faulty construct. So if he's teaching you the principles of Machiavelli, right? I mean, you need to have some princes around to do that with, I guess. But what else did you say? You said something else that really set off a red flag. You said he used what was it? Not manipulation, but
not manipulation. Like but those Machiavellian concepts were there in some of his earlier books. In this book, The Mastery, he basically talks about
mastery of what?
what the mastery of anything. He basically talks.
Oh, so he's a master of everything or anything? Anything?
No, he basically talks about mastery of something that you lean towards. Like there is something when you were a child and you were really interested in, like something, and
Okay, so that's
your
genuine.
duty.
That's authentic, genuine, right? That's the path, all right? If there's two paths, this is the way of contrivance, right? Doing something and hoping this goes this way and that way. Contriving, it's always going to fail in the end. The straight path, the one that it seems like he's talking about, the one of authentic genuineness, that's the only way to go on this planet. Your life is too short and this world is too complicated for anything else. So just drop any kind of contrivance. It's the enemy of the way is contrivance and certainty and things like that. Okay, keep going. Good.
Yeah, so that's what he mostly talks about, and that is something that's needed in the world.
What's
And
needed in the
a
world?
lot of like developing their own mastery in something that they lean towards. And
Towards your inclinations, towards your. Okay, good. All right. How evolved is this Mr. Green or Dr. Green or whoever it is as a person? Have you seen him on YouTube? Have you examined him carefully?
I have seen, like, he has a YouTube channel like you.
He has a
He
what?
has he has his own YouTube channel, Robert Green, named Robert
Hopefully
Green.
not like mine. Okay. Mine's designed for very
But
specific. Well, mine's designed to pass on information to folks,
yeah,
right? This guy sounds like he writes
but
books and he does other things. So what does he do for his day job?
so I think his biography is like early in his career he worked various jobs. Like he was a English literature graduate,
Oh, English
and
literature. So he
he
probably
joined.
writes well, right? That's a very good skill. Add that to your
Yeah,
talent stack if you can. Keep going.
and that's what he said. Like he leans a lot towards writing, so that's what he made. That's what he wanted to master. But during his initial few periods where he moved on from being the idealistic guy about idealistic work environment to realizing a lot of social nature of the job, like how other people interact with each other, and most often than not, things are not always good, or like people don't do things out of goodness every
Do you
time.
have the book
Then,
Do you have the book handy by any chance?
yeah, it's a bit out there. Let me just bring it.
That's fine.
I think this is the one.
Okay, well that's an impressive cover. Now, let me see at the bottom who published it. Down to the bottom. Okay. All right. Now let me see the spine from the side. Okay, penguin it looks like. Now let me see the back. There's nothing written on the back. That's interesting. What's the copyright? Oh, there's a little bit.
Copyright. Are you talking about this one?
There you go. Perfect. Do you know how to find a copyright? It's right there. Okay, copyright 2012 Robert Greene. Oh, it's Viking as a. Okay, good. All right. So what I just showed you were the first 3 steps of approaching any book. Okay, any book. Now the next question is, who is he writing for?
Writing for people who are who were idealized, who had that idealistic dream of the world, or idealistic.
What do you mean had that dream?
When they faced the reality, they saw that idealistic world doesn't exist.
Okay, keep going. Good.
Who genuinely do things for their own selfish reasons.
Yeah.
And
Like publish books.
totally fine.
If you're an English literature major, you know, it's hard to find a job that pays well usually, right? Unless you fold it into something else. So good. So he's writing a book, and it's about mastery, and he's mastered the art of writing, and he's teaching you how to master everything. And the first thing he's taught you is that you have to be authentic, you have to be genuine, and then you also have to play to your strengths. What about your weaknesses? How does he deal with those?
I haven't gone through them. I don't.
Oh, so you haven't read the book yet? You haven't finished the book yet?
No.
All right, well then put it to the side, because we have much better books. Much better books. Okay?
Got
All right, for mastery especially. Now, there's nothing wrong with starting this. I started with Wayne Dwyer, believe it or not. So you don't know who he is, but he would be like the equivalent, you know, a guy who wanted to contribute, a good person, had some constructive things to say that he'd picked up around the way, and he made books out of them, or he made tapes out of them, and so good, great. So, but let's wait till you finish the book, because you can't say anything until you've finished it. Because what if at the end he says, you know, like Wittgenstein, you know, a very famous philosopher says, you know, by the time you reach the end of this essay or something like that, you're going to have to throw the whole thing out, which is part of the essay, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so or whatever. Okay, so good question. Other questions?
But I had this one personal part.
Okay, good. Okay.
And one question was like, yesterday, like I have been doing all these good things in my life.
So you've been going to the gym and you've been reading. Good. What else? The good things?
Going for walk every day.
Walking every day. Excellent. Good. What else?
And I think that's about it. I have also joined Toastmasters.
Really? Really? What'd you think?
It was interesting session. Like I had the first session this Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can see that it will be pretty challenging for me, but at the same
Which
time,
part will be challenging?
it will be like talking to a group of people that I don't know. Maybe eventually I will start knowing them.
What is your favorite language to speak with your friends in? I mean,
It depends.
Okay.
It's both Hindi or English, both. So it depends.
What did you call it?
Hindi. or
Hindi. Okay.
English.
So is there a Hindi Toastmasters? Is that what you're going to, or are you going to an English Toastmasters?
English one. I'm going to English one.
Well, why don't you try a Hindi first and get to know the ropes, right?
I'm fine with either of them, I would argue. So
Okay, fine. All right. I'm just trying to make it, you know, because you start small in order to grow large, right? And what we don't want is for you to get frustrated, right? And not be able to make progress because you started too far in, okay? So just make sure that wherever it is, you feel totally comfortable, right? With people like you, all right? So what else is going to be hard about that, do you think?
I think whenever I saw someone like going to the stage and talking, it just reminded me of my high school days where I really dreaded if English teacher just pointed me out and asked me to answer some question. Like I thought even if I knew the answer, I can't talk.
What do you mean, even if you knew the answer? Why wouldn't you know the answer?
Or at least I have an idea about what the silly could be.
Okay.
Like time and again, there have been various interview kind of situations wherein I knew the answer, but I got scared or I panicked and I couldn't answer the question.
Good. Okay, so we'll throw that in the category of social anxiety.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Public speaking.
Yes.
But look at this. It's so beautiful to see. So you identify a problem, right? You know, I've got anxiety in social situations. And then you think, well, what can I do about this? And then somehow or another you end up at Toastmasters and you've isolated a problem and you've seen a solution and now you're taking the first step towards that solution. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do in life. Figure out what you need, not what you want, what you need. That's a big one, especially for young people, you know? So make sure you separate in your mind. Is this something I want or is this something I need? Because if you don't take care of the need parts first, when you get down the road later, you won't be able to handle what you have to deal with, right? So let's say you go into corporate work. I mean, I don't know what you're going to do, but let's say you do, okay? At some point, depending on where you are in the corporation, you're probably going to have to publicly speak, right? And so that's why you have to build a solid foundation of not just publicly speaking, but what is this fear thing altogether, right? And what are you afraid of? And so everybody goes through this. Everybody must, right? And so now we start to deconstruct. Okay, social anxiety. What is that really? It's fear of a certain sort. We know that much. But this approach that you're taking, I think it's great. Okay, so keep going. And forgive me for having to interrupt so much, but I need to because otherwise there's some very vital points I want to get across to you. Okay. And so forgive me for that, but I will have to do that. Keep going.
Yeah, so I had this question. How does one identify their needs? How does one differentiate want from their needs?
Extremely good question. Ooh.
I mean, you can refer me to some book as well.
Well, you don't need a book. You could just look outside, right? And you could just watch people, and you could think for yourself. You could think, how would I differentiate something I want from what I need? Well, clearly, some of the things you need are biological, right? You need sleep, you need food, you need exercise, you need rest, right? So those are all needs. Now, once all of those are taken care of, then you can start getting into the wants, right? Well, you want to be better with anxiety in social situations, right? So believe it or not, that's kind of a want until you build a foundation, right? I don't know. I probably didn't say that right, but you'll get the difference pretty soon, right? I mean, you may want to play a video game, but what you need to do is keep working on your foundation. All right, and from that foundation, then we'll stack talents on top of those, one after one another, right? Public speaking, telling jokes, understanding material, writing, reading, go and you just build them up, drawing, whatever you want in a way, but those come later because right now there's catch up, okay? For a number of reasons, and so it'll be clear later, right?
Major problem with that is patience, I would say.
Okay, perfect. Patience. So how do you cultivate patience and forbearance?
I don't know.
Good, perfect. And then my time here is well spent. This is perfect. So how do you cultivate patience? Okay. One way is that you change your attitude towards it. and you realize that it's a superpower. An executive who's patient can do much, much more than one who's impulsive. Let's use executives as an example, okay? So how would one cultivate this? One of the ways that I used was when I'd go to the grocery store. This was back in the old days when people had checkbooks and money and things like that, and they'd be standing in line and they'd be taking forever, right? Because they were old, right? And they were worried about getting something wrong on the checkbook or whatever. Plus they were talking about their kids or something else, their grandkids or God knows what. And meanwhile, I need to get somewhere. So this lady is really hanging me up, not just me, but a lot of other people. But with a shift of attitude, you realize that patience is a virtue that is you can't overstate its value to you, because it's necessary for every one of the other 5 paramitas. All right, now you want self-development, you want mastery, those 6 right there will give it to you, okay, in spades. Now, so I'm standing there and I realized that, wait a minute, I heard that this paramita thing, I'm supposed to cultivate patience. Well, here's a perfect opportunity. And then I realized that woman standing there in line like that is not a problem. She's my Buddha. She's my teacher. She's the one she's my coach. And if I was lifting weights, let's say I was lifting weights, right, like this, to build up biceps, okay, something like that. Imagine if you were really preoccupied with building up your biceps for some reason, right? And then you walked around town doing your errands and people left out little barbells for you of different sizes. Wouldn't that be cool? Right? So you cultivate patience by cultivating patience, right? By realizing that, hey, anybody who tries to make you impatient is doing you a great service. Of course, don't get silly, right? You don't wait overnight for the bus if the bus didn't show up by 10 or 11 or whatever it is, right? So don't be silly, but you see, every chance you get to practice patience is actually a chance to make it stronger. That's how you cultivate patience, the same way you build up a bicep, right? Or the same way you build up your strength if you're a weightlifter or whatever. Do you see what I'm saying? So this is really, really good. Questions about what I just said?
So what do you do, like when you are sometimes frustrated with not making enough progress? Like,
you have patience with yourself.
That happened yesterday.
Okay, you have patience with yourself, and then you ask yourself honestly, am I one of these people that's not really genuine? Am I really trying to just get something fast or cheap, right? Or am I an authentic, genuine human being who wants to do good by myself and by the world, and my family, community, or not? Because if you are, then these problems solve themselves. No one who's sincere and authentic and genuine will disregard the paramitas once they've heard of them, right? And once they've accepted in their mind that, hey, maybe this makes sense. It's been around for, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 years. And people are saying the same thing over and over and over. The same virtues keep getting brought up because these are the ones that can be cultivated and they all work together. So you see so let's take an example of where you get frustrated with yourself, and maybe I can show you. All right, using the 6 paramitas. Do you remember the 6 paramitas?
Yes.
Okay, good. So let's give the example of how you get frustrated with yourself.
Yeah, so the reason why I got frustrated yesterday was, like, I was going to ask this question actually, like, you want to...
I love questions. Keep going.
So you wanted, like, if one wants to be, like, show their true self or, like, develop their true self, but what if it is in contrast with the reality of the situation? Like, for example, they need to get a job soon. That's what happened with me. Like, I am learning something new, but at the same time, I want to get a job as soon as possible.
Well, then why don't you that goes into the category of first things first, right? You need a job. So what are you doing to get the job? Yeah, okay, I didn't know that, but okay, let's go. I mean, the time constraints. So let's go. I mean, you got to get a job, right? So that have you been using? So let me tell you a big mistake that many people make, and they go, boom, they fall right over. They use the Dharma. They use this kind of work to avoid doing the work that they really need to do. So you'll see these people, they'll go off to retreats, they'll go off and live in a cave, or they'll go out and live in a remote area and not do anything. And they think they're being holy, but in fact they're being avoidant and lazy. Do you know the word avoidant? Yeah, social avoidance, things like that. So you got to always be honest with yourself, ruthlessly honest with yourself. What does it say in the Castaneda? Ruthless, sweet, and kind. Sweet, ruthless, and kind. No, sweet, kind, and ruthless, or something like that. Well, that's where that comes from. Okay, so with yourself, be sweet, be kind, but be ruthless. Have you been jerking yourself around inadvertently? Have you been procrastinating getting a job or going to interviews or anything like that? Because if you have, then that's got to be taken care of, right? This is not an escape from the world. This is to be able to function well in the world, to be able to contribute to the world, right? And so don't get lost in the. You got to do them both. It's not this human life. I mean, think about it. We're in an animal body, but we are of the divine. Now think about how difficult that's going to be, right? And although within every one of us is our essential nature, which is truth itself, right? Of course, that's where we come from. And that's where we go to. But now it's in an animal body. And it's got concepts in addition, right? There's nothing wrong with the animal body. All the animals I see, they don't have any problems. They don't have anxiety, social anxiety or anything like that. They just kind of like do what they do. They don't think about the future. They don't think about the past. They don't have ranks according to concepts, right? They just have the natural way, right? And so the way is natural and simple, right? And so are you, but you've got this problem, which is all the added concepts and fears and layers of thoughts, etc. All right? So let's go back to where, ask again, please.
Yeah, like that was my personal problem, I would say. Like, then I basically started spiraling out, saying, will I not do
Well, did you
anything?
procrastinate?
Sometimes I do, but these days I have been like studying.
Serious men do not procrastinate. Serious men do not play around. Serious men are very serious about that relaxation, right? And the time they take off to play or do whatever, that's great, that's fine. But after the work is done, right? Not before. Okay? And that's after they've done it well or something like that. They have to feel, I mean, how can you relax if you've got that hanging over your head? You can't do anything. You can't concentrate, you can't study, you can't work on, I mean, because all of it, you got to take care of first things first. Okay? So let's talk about this job thing. What are your prospects? How's it looking?
Looking okayish, I would say. But at the same time, I don't know. I think I don't have much self-confidence that I'll get a good job.
How could you have self-confidence if you haven't done what you need to do to be confident, right? So people ask for confidence. It's like, I mean, you can't be a confident surfer unless you learn to surf and surf, right? So people say, well, I play video games, and I get drunk with my friends on the weekend, or I get high and I do this and that or whatever. Okay, fine. That's not the end of the world. But then they come and they say, oh, but now I feel anxious because I'm anxious because I've got all this mountain of work that I didn't do because I was playing too much video games, smoking too much dope, or drinking too much, or not taking myself seriously, or not taking this life seriously. And so now I have to pay, right? So did you learn? The only question is, do you learn, right? So this is the price of procrastination, is anxiety constantly. not only for you, but everybody around you. So it's not kind, right? And so treat yourself better than that is what I would say. I don't know what Mr. Green would say, but I think he would agree that first things first, right? And that's part of mastery.
Yeah.
All right.
I think I was thinking that, I did get this insight that I'm actually scared of getting my hands dirty because it's frustrating and I hate it. But
Okay.
that is something that needs to be done to be master at something. Like if my hands are not getting dirty, then I'm not challenging myself.
That's an interesting way to put it, but you said the magic word, which was insight, right? Another paramita. So by examining your mind and examining your behavior and looking at your thoughts, but that's the thoughts don't matter, frankly. They come, they go. If you notice one, it'll disappear, right? But watching your behavior, you can glean some information, okay? And so I got so excited with the word insight, I wrote this other word down. Oh yeah, getting your hands dirty. That's an interesting way of putting it. What does that mean, getting your hands dirty?
Basically, if you are doing some coding, then keeping in mind various different moving parts of a system, or setting up, you're moving to a new house and setting up all the furniture and all, ordering them, and constructing them. All these things are big pain. You need to be involved in these things to get these things done. You can pay.
Okay. Excellent. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what will give you your foundation in coding, right? So if you don't get in there in the beginning, right, and work with it yourself, you'll always be reliant on somebody else. Right? Now with your mind, that's devastating, right? Or with your soul, it's even worse. The mind you can toss, right? The animals don't need all these concepts. And they're loving and they're perfectly perfect. And they know what to do, and so do you, but it's been overlaid with all this other stuff, what's called neurosis, right? Do you know what a neurosis is? Look it up. Look it up and read it to me.
I think wasn't it? Let me just. I think a mental condition that is not caused by organic disease involves symptoms of stress, depression,
Okay.
anxiety.
We need to know what it's not. Let's find out what it is. What dictionary are you using?
I think I'm just using Google.
Oh, don't. No. You got to get at least use Oxford online. All right. I mean, because come on, we're looking up a word, and we don't want somebody's idea of what a word should mean, right? But we really want to know what the word is. What does it talk about?
I think I was going through Merriam-Webster's one, and it says a mental and emotional disorder that affects only part of the personality is accompanied by a less distorted perception of reality than in a psychosis, and does not.
Okay, never mind. That's just okay. I chose a bad example. If that's the Oxford Dictionary, that's not very helpful. And so let's just keep going. All right. And I'm sure there's other definitions, because it's not a mental disorder in the usual sense of the word, right? It's not classified as I've never heard it classified as a mental disorder anywhere ever. And so they've decided it's a mental disorder, which it's not. I don't know anybody who doesn't have neurotic conflict. No one. So I'm sorry they did that to the dictionary, and that's what I mean, right? So we don't have to get that detailed into it, but what's the problem? Why do you think you procrastinate?
I'm just afraid and.
Okay, what are you afraid of?
unable to solve the problem, and because of that, I get a job.
So you're afraid of failing.
A lot, yeah.
Okay. Who do you know that's successful that hasn't failed over and over and over? Many times. And also, if you just listen to anybody of any accomplishment, and they have to speak publicly or whatever, they're always talking about how many times they failed, because they failed many, many times. So if you're afraid of failure, you're not going to be able to progress.
That does remind me of one thing, actually.
But if you can't solve the problem because you haven't done the work, then you're not afraid of failure. You're afraid of yourself, or you're afraid of that you're going to have to pay the price of your laziness and your procrastination, right? So it's not a simple. I mean, so first you'd have to have the content down, right? If you don't have that, if you don't have the substance, well, you should be afraid, and maybe you shouldn't apply. You should do them a favor, do yourself a favor, and do something that you truly love, right? That you're good at, and that you want to do, that has a future to it. Oh, correct? Now, how are you doing with neural nets? What is your understanding of neural nets? Pardon me?
Yeah, like I can totally understand neural nets and all.
Okay. All right. If you can totally understand neural nets, we're good. You're golden. Okay. So the question is, now, where the job that you're looking for, do you think about it like 3 years out? 5 years out? Or are you just trying to get some money right now?
It's short-term goal.
Short term, so who cares? Just if it's a short-term goal and you need the money, find a job where you can do it and at your level of prep, because you can't fake this stuff in life. Sometimes you think you'll be successful, and you are for a little while, because you fooled yourself and you fooled others. And you think, oh, I'm clever, right? But sooner or later, the gig's up. And so again, contrivance is not part of any non-neurotic way. Okay, neurosis is like, remember the tona we talked about, the heart, the mind, the body, and the spirit? Okay? A neurosis would be when the two of those are in conflict with each other. And that's the case for most people. So part of you wants to slack off, right? Take it easy. But then another part of you wants to achieve and to accomplish and to be successful. So that's a neurotic conflict, right? So it sucks all your energy. And it's worse than that, it takes your time, your vital time. These are the very important years of your life, because you're laying your foundation. And later, there'll be two kinds of men on the planet, or women. You know, when I say men, I mean men and women. Forgive me, I'm an old man. And I mean transsexuals and everybody else, too, of every color, all right? So when I say man, I mean mankind, okay? Now, there are those who, have you ever heard the story? See, all this stuff is encoded in teaching tales, like the story of the cricket and it's the grasshopper and the squirrel. Is that right? Is that Rudyard Kipling or somebody? I don't think that's Kipling. Kipling's better than that. But you know the story. What's the story? Tell it to me real quick.
As far as I know, I think squirrel during summertime or springtime works hard and stores some of the food in its home to be used later in winter.
Correct.
Whereas grasshopper does nothing and just lazes around and takes whatever he or she wants. But when winter comes, squirrel is able to live a good life because he applied a lot of effort and thought in future.
Okay, so which are you? Are you a grasshopper or a squirrel?
Right now, I'm a grasshopper.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't want to be a grasshopper.
Well, that's not true. You do want to be a grasshopper, otherwise you would have taken care of this, right? So this is what I mean. Forget your mind. Watch your behavior. Then you'll know what you really want, okay? And you'll know the way your mind can play tricks on you. And you also know the conflict, because part of you want to be a squirrel, but you think you're a grasshopper, or you've acted like a grasshopper. Okay? So now what are you going to do? So what if the grasshopper came up and said, "Hey, squirrel, I feel really anxious. I'm afraid." What would the squirrel say?
Just work on yourself and do something.
Do what you need
or
to
just
do
let
and
that?
do it first, right? So this is going to sound weird, but squirrel you needs to take over and let grasshopper out maybe, I don't know, an hour a day and a few more hours on the weekend. But dude, get serious with yourself. There's other people that are your age, they're working, right? And then they're going to be wealthy, they're going to be looked up to, they're going to be successful, they're going to be the kind of kid, you know this what I'm talking about because you do it right now. There's people you look and you go, I admire that guy. How many of them were lazy? How many of them procrastinated? How many of them were grasshoppers? I'm serious.
No.
Even the musicians, they worked their ass off. I mean, even the musicians, I was talking about rock musicians because in the 60s they didn't have to. but anyway, so the point is this, is that if the grasshopper is afraid, there's a lot of reasons for the grasshopper to be afraid. So should we address the fear, or should we address the fact that the grasshopper doesn't have a place to go in the winter and he's going to die from his own neglect of his own self, his not a want but needs, right? So in the spring he wanted to cavort around and just have a good time, so on and so forth. But actually he needed, because winter's coming, right? To be, you know what I'm trying to say, okay? So decide once and for all, are you a grasshopper or a squirrel? And if you decide to be a grasshopper, that's, so be it. That's your decision. But only you can decide that. Nobody else can. No coach, no shrink, no parent, no one can decide that for you. So you just need to decide, am I a serious man or not? Am I a genuine man, or am I a little kid in a man's body? Trying to get my own pleasure, my own gratification above everything else, and I don't have enough insight or discipline or patience, right? Or energy to do the things I need to do. Join the herd. There's millions of people like that. And frankly, no one will miss you. Except for yourself. I mean, I'll miss you, right? Other people that love you will miss you, right? But most of the world is grasshoppers. It's a kind of a crude analogy, because then you can't whip a grasshopper to make it work, right? You can't beat it with a stick like you can a horse or an ox or an entry-level coder, right?
I had this one question. But
Go ahead.
will I get confidence if I work more on these things? I know these things will take time, and I've started basically studying, but I want to increase the studying period because I realize I have limited time and I can't waste it.
Okay. Now you're stacking things on top of the question, right? So now what's the question?
My question is, will I get more confident in myself if I keep practicing and keep studying?
Okay. Listen carefully to my answer. Yes. Yes. But not if you just do it in tiny little, I got to work real hard because I need to get a job right now, so I'm going to really work on the coding right now, right? That's not going to do it. I'm talking about the whole thing, the heart, the mind, the body, the soul, the spirit, right? Or whatever you want to call it, the essence, reality. Call it what you like. But the answer is, of course, yes. But if you don't, the answer is no. So it's really straightforward. Did you get the answer? Okay. And you'll find that all I'm saying is probably the same thing Robert Greene is saying. It's just he says it in a different way, probably. And maybe he's not quite as comprehensive, or maybe he's, I don't know, maybe more. But it doesn't matter. It could be Wayne Dwyer. It can be, it could be Deepak Chopra. Who cares, right? Because you're not looking for enlightened teachers here. You're just looking for someone to motivate you a bit, correct? So go for it. But the answer is yes. And as a matter of fact, that's the only way you're going to be really confident. There's people who fake confidence, but they don't last long. You can blow them over like that, right? So it's really pretty simple. All beings work on this earth without exception But you don't have to be, they don't have to be miserable. When I look at the squirrels gathering the acorns out here, they're not miserable. They're having a great time. They're just doing what they do, you know, and if it's cold, they're cold, a bit cold that day, and I don't know exactly what they do exactly, but then when it warms up, they're out there playing and having a great time and doing what they need to do. And you're the same way, except you've got layers and layers and layers of garbage piled on there, right? And so now we got to get that garbage moved out of the way, and then you'll find that it's really very simple. Take care of business and you won't be anxious. But the business includes finding a job, tending to your heart, tending to your mind, tending to your body, which you're doing, by the way. Great progress. That's significant weight loss. You look much better. That's good weight loss. And you went to, what's it called? Toastmasters. Superb. Excellent. Couldn't have thought anything better myself. And then also you're studying and you're asking questions and you're gaining insight and you're gaining strength. And you look a lot. What does your mom think?
She did say I look a lot better.
Yeah, you're making her happy, right? Love your parents. Take care of yourself. Make them, you know, that's all the parents want. They just want you to be happy. And they know that you're not going to be happy unless you take care of business. But sometimes they get really soft and they say, oh, come be with me, and you regress. And so that's one of the reasons why people leave home, right?
Yeah.
Don't tell your mom I said that, but sometimes they do because they need to stand on their own 2 feet. And then you can provide for your parents, right? Instead of the other way around. And that's the natural order of things, right? So, other questions?
I had one question from one of your tweet. Like, what do you mean by all intelligence is collective intelligence?
Oh, thank you for asking that question. Okay. Oh man, that's so great. The most important thing I would say that we've learned scientifically in biology in the new century, there's a guy named Michael Levin. He's at Tufts in Boston. I don't know the man. And I didn't know anything of him, but when I saw his work, I went, whoa, that's it, right? So he's discovered that cells communicate not just like neurons, but when they're next to each other, they communicate like trees, all right? Like they exchange chemicals. And so they're constantly talking to each other, and each one is a unit of survival, right? Every cell wants to survive. And we start at this level, but we could go lower and we can go higher, right? But we'll start with a single cell. And then when we look at an organ, well, then that organ needs to function, like a liver, for example. That means all the cells have to be working together. So at the level of the individual cell, you have the ribosome, the nucleus, the mitochondria, the RNA, the DNA, all exchanging information, communicating, and acting intelligently, right? And then you put them in a tissue, and then the tissue starts to act intelligently. Then you put them into an organ, and the organ acts intelligently, like the heart. Boom, boom, boom. Actually, it's boom, 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 boom. Okay? And then we get to the brain, right? And then the brain starts to, say, let's use scientists' brain for a moment, okay? So they have to come up with hypotheses. They have to come up with experiments. They have to deduce, they're trying to deduce the ways of nature using their concepts and things like that. And they're making progress. They're dropping space and time. So that's real progress in physics. But at any rate, but the brain is also just a collection of cells, and also the other parts of the body are communicating with the brain, just like the brain communicates with the other part of the body. And so we have kind of brains in our guts, right? Brains in our feet. It's kind of like an octopus that has all the different brains. Okay? So in that sense, it's collective. Then you collect them together, the scientists, for example, or the philosophers, or the artists, or whomever it might be. And then now they have a new kind of intelligence, which is a collective intelligence, to design a constitution for a country, for example. Right? No man could have done that on his own. Nobody does anything on their own. You can't do anything on your own in this universe, in reality, and you'll learn that when you start to look at your thoughts, and you'll see, well, wait a minute, where did these thoughts come from? Well, they come from that ad that I saw that said, if I don't do this, I'm going to lose out, right? Or they got a really hot blonde right next to this, convertible sports car that costs $180,000. Man, I want one. So that, because in the mind it says, well, if I get that car, then I'll get the blonde. which is, oh, by the way, have you read Mullah Nasruddin?
I haven't started with Sufi books yet.
Okay, well, these are joke books, all right? And they will give you the keys to your own mind. They're all about your mind, every one of them. And so please, it's a joke book. You know, you can put it on the coffee table, put it in the bathroom. It doesn't matter. But I suggest you read them, because then it'll be a lot easier to explain a lot of this to you, right? And also, in addition to that, it's fun, and you'll laugh. Some of them are hilarious, some of them are mysterious, and some of them are like, what the hell is this? And you won't know immediately, so you'll learn patience, all right? And you'll get insight, right? And the discipline required is nothing, so it won't take anything away from your job search, right, and preparation. And so, again, I kind of recommend, the reason I recommend books is because they're useful. And I try not to, I know they're difficult, and that's part of the deal. A little bit, it's a joke book. Each page is, what, 6 lines? And they're hilarious jokes, some of them. You can use them at parties if you want, whatever. So that would help things move along. It really would. Okay, for example, duck soup. Do you know what duck soup is? A soup of the duck of the duck of the duck. Okay, so you need, that's what I mean, right? So then later I'll be able to say duck soup, or you're eating your money, right? Or you're for sunk cost fallacy, things like that. So it shows you all the different fallacies and neurotic things that the mind does, okay? And by the way, it just occurred to me, we stopped with intelligence with humanity, right? But then you go up a level and you see nature itself. And talk about intelligence. Good God, this thing doesn't need us or anything. It just knows. And then we go further than that, beyond this manifest world, and then we get to a supreme intelligence. And then we get into things beyond our concepts of supreme. And this is where the Avatamsaka can be helpful. But I'm not asking you to read anything like that, right? But a joke book, I think you can handle, no? What is it, 100 pages of jokes?
Isn't this all net of Indra? Interconnection between things?
Very good, excellent. The net of Indra is a metaphor for it. And like all metaphors and anything in words or written or spoken, it can't come close, right? So the net of Indra is a metaphor for the interconnectedness of all beings and the reality that nothing exists on its own, which is the concept of emptiness, right? Nothing lasts, everything is a product of interdependent origination, like intelligence, for example, right? And so this interdependent, so nothing lasts, everything depends on other things, right? Nothing has an inherent existence by itself. When I grew up, I thought a tree was a tree and that was the organism, right? But then I learned that they occur in families. And so that whole concept of a tree family, I don't think we have a word for that. But see, as we learn, then we know more, and then we're able to see more. And so the net of Indra is a metaphor, a beautiful metaphor. Are you referring to the tweet? So contemplate that. So people wonder, well, what is this contemplation thing? Or what should I do to contemplate? Or this meditation, contemplation, concentration, all those different words that have the 3 syllables. Well, you take the description of the net of Indra, instead of, I didn't want to make it too complex, but you take a diamond with infinite facets, okay? And at every intersection of the web, there's a diamond. And every facet of every diamond reflects every other facet of every, and so nothing can happen anywhere in the cosmos without it affecting something else. That's what you are, right? But we'll get to what you are later after you've gotten a job. Okay, any other questions before we stop?
No.
Okay, good. Well, great work, man. Don't you feel better?
Yeah.
Well, why don't you guys decide, do I want to be happy and successful and full of joy, or do I want to be a miserable, neurotic, anxious person like everybody else? It's your choice. And it sounds like you're making good choices. Now you just have to follow through. All right? Okay. Take good care. Ciao.